This week is one of the biggest weeks of the year if you're a Bombers fan, and this year's stage turned things up a notch. We have highlights from the game, and we're going to have defensive coordinator Mike Turper in studio, along with a whole lot of players to break down all of Saturday's action. Alyssa Spady has your Liberty League roundup, and as always, Fourth and Goal has a lot to debate. This is the season finale and the Cortaca special for the Gridiron Report, and it starts right now. Welcome into the Gridiron Report. I'm your host, Matias Weilmann. Thanks for tuning in for everything Bombers football. The game that was played this weekend needs no introduction, but in case you're unaware, it's Cortaca week. This Saturday brought along the 61st edition, of the most storied franchise in Division III football. Last year, before the game, Ithaca's athletic director Susan Bassett announced the game would be played at MetLife Stadium to celebrate the 150th anniversary of college football, and boy, did they pick a great venue. We're going to see how everything turned out from the game in a bit, but before that, let's talk to the man leading the defensive coordinator, Mike Turper. Coach, thank you for joining me.
Always a pleasure, Matias.
So when we spoke during the week, you called the past couple of weeks some of the hardest of your coaching career. Why was that, and what did the team do to rebound?
I believe it was tough because we came off of two really crushing losses. You know, it's a team that had a lot of potential, and we have a lot of talent on this team, and our guys work really hard. And unfortunately, the breaks of the game didn't go our way over the last 2 weeks, and it was just tough to really just swallow the pride a little bit and get back out there and work. But our guys really performed very well in practice and got after it each and every day.
Say this is a heck of a game to rebound from two tough losses with, I would say.
Yeah, no, this is definitely the best medicine you could have for 2 tough weeks, and it was really a compliment to our guys' preparation and them just staying the course. And we talk about it all the time. When the breaks of the game go against you, don't let up, put on more steam. And those guys did just that over this last week.
Were there any special buzzwords this week in the locker room? Because I know you wanted to prepare like it was any other game, but it wasn't.
No, I mean, we knew there was going to be a lot of outside noise, you know, no pun intended, there's going to be a loud crowd, but there's a lot of talk about Cortaca, and we really just focused on really just worrying about what matters, and that's each other, you know, caring about each other, playing for each other, and then also just doing our 111th and doing the best we can in our job each and every play. Obviously,
completely different animal playing at Butterfield Stadium or playing at Cortland compared to MetLife. What did you guys do during the week to kind of prepare for an increased atmosphere, I should say?
During the week was very loud at practice. You know, some of the houses that are near Higgins Field where we were practicing on the turf might have heard a lot of loud music all week long. And I think it gave our guys a little bit of extra juice, but it also created a little bit of chaotic scenarios. And certainly there were times where Coach Swanstrom would have the whole defense yelling behind the offense to really put the pressure on our guys on offense and just getting used to the crowd noise. So we did a nice job, or our head coach did a nice job of preparing our guys for that distraction, I guess you could call it.
So the preparation was there. Let's see if the results were there. We're going to take a look at the highlights from yesterday's game. Let's see exactly what went down the 61st annual Cortaca Jug. Pick it up here in the first quarter. It's Joe Germinario. That's actually Will Gladney, John Haddock, and Mike Conley, some of the captains meeting at midfield. Here we go. Joe Germinario on the first drive punches this one in. He's been so effective in the QB sneaks all season long. You take another look. Cortland was ready, but it didn't matter off the left side. Now here, still in the first quarter, the defense coming up with a huge stop, kind of a missed snap from Brett Segala, quarterback who has been good all season long, but he was shut down today. And how about the captain, John Haddock, coming up with the ball, the crowd getting into it, as Coach Turper, you just alluded to. Big crowd in this game. And then Zach Tripodi, he had himself a heck of a game in the red zone. That's one of his touchdowns for the day. And then Joe Germinario, why not keep it yourself and punch it in? Nick Bamunde missed the PAT, on the first touchdown, so that one made it 13-6 Ithaca. Players getting into it, and then Joe Germinario. This is one of the most spectacular runs I have ever seen. He moves left, but Cortland does a good job of containing him. Now look at Brendan Martin, the big guy, getting out in front of him. Joe Germinario, 10-yard rush, takes it to the house. Third rushing touchdown of the day for him, 19-6 the score. How about that little fan excited? And I don't blame him. The Bombers were rolling. They were in control. And then Joe Germinario through the air got things done. Austin Hedgeland, a great block ahead to get Mikey Anderson open. Makes the completion there. And then Joe Germinario, why not find your best receiver, Will Gladney, to the house? He has scored in every single Cortaca jug he has played. Look at that tremendous angle on the touchdown. A perfect throw and a perfect catch. But the Cortland Red Dragons did not go away. They had 18 unanswered points at one point. That is Tripodi getting in for his second touchdown of the game. That made it 26-3. I thought the defense played him very well, but Tripodi showed great patience behind the line of scrimmage. Now this was the third one. He's going to outrun Miles Haynes and Nick Garone. Much easier said than done. I've never raced them, but I can imagine they are quite fast. Tripodi getting the edge, punching it in. So it's 26-20 Ithaca. They've controlled the whole game, but the score right there, and here's the dagger on third down. Joe Germinario with a trick play. Andrew Vito in the corner, wide open, into the end zone. Chills through every Ithaca fan in the crowd. That one would seal the deal. Look at the replay here. Off the trick play, Joe Germinario throws in a pump fake for good measure. And what a throw to Andrew Vito, the best receiver for the day. 32-20 was the final score. The Bombers celebrating on the sidelines. The Jugs stayed at home. 3 straight for the Bombers in the Jugs. We spoke to some former players, and they said sometimes it's tough at the beginning of Cortaca because of the intensity and the crowd noise. This is obviously a whole different animal. But you guys got off to a great start. How did you defeat the atmosphere?
I think our head coach had a great plan offensively, and he did such a nice job of controlling the ball and really keeping Cortland's offense off schedule. You know, if they were on schedule, they were running the ball for 4, 5, 6 yards a pop, then going up top to their speedy receivers on the edge. And Coach Swanstrom did a great job of just having a nice patient drive, that first drive of the game, going down and scoring. And you know, the stats speak for themselves. We had 40 minutes of possession compared to their 18 or 19 minutes, and it was pretty impressive by our offense all day long.
So we'll get to the time of possession a little later. I want to go to the game plan right now because it looked like the defense knew exactly what Cortland was going to run. What was the game plan coming in?
Oh, we had a great idea of their offense, and that was one of the keys to success for our defense during the week, was getting to know their offense, getting to know their tendencies, because they are very heavily based on their formations. They would run certain plays. Based on their motions, they would run certain plays. So we really had to do a good job of knowing what they're going to do. We just had to also stop it, which is easier said than done because they are a very talented offense.
So think about this from a defensive coordinator point of view. Joe Germinario ran the ball over 30 times. Yeah. What would you do as a defensive coordinator to stop that? Or why was that working so well against them?
Having a quarterback that can run the football like that, as a running back, you know, you have an extra blocker there then for your running back to lead block for you. So that is one of the toughest things to defend. That's what made Tim Tebow such a great college quarterback. He not only could beat you through the air, but he was going to ground and pound it out for 6, 7 yards a pop, and that's what Joe did on Saturday. Very gutsy performance by him, and I'm just really proud of that guy, and he's been a great leader for us all year long.
So you talk about time possession a little earlier. You've been on both sides of the ball now in Union, you really got dominated for time of possession, and in this game, you really dominated the other team in time of possession. How different is the game when you can get your defense off the field quickly? Oh,
it's certainly different. And again, our offense did such a great job, and then us being able to get 3 and outs in the second half to start the second half was huge, because whenever you have a 3 and out, it's great to get your offense right back onto the field to get into a rhythm. Conversely, when your offense is on the field, the other offense gets on the field and they feel rushed. They feel panicked. The offensive coordinator now is thinking a little bit more about the pass game than they are the run game. So they get off schedule. So again, in the Union game, we didn't do a great job of getting off the field in third down. And they did a great job of running the ball. So in this game, it was kind of the opposite.
And real quick, you have another game potentially coming up. We'll find out tomorrow at noon if the team is selected for the bowl game. I certainly think they will be selected. I would imagine it's the same for you. How do you get your team motivated? Because this is a huge win, and I know a lot of players probably just want to go out on top after Cortaca.
Well, Coach Swanstrom says it all the time. Football is a unique game, and it's a special opportunity every time you get to go out there, put the ball down, and play a football game. And I'll tell you right now, I'd empty my bank account to play another football game. That's the way that we're trying to get that perspective into our players' heads, and I think they buy into that, and they're going to come out and give it their best shot on Saturday, no matter who steps up across from us, and kind of feel bad for them because we're going to play really hard.
So we'll find out later this week to see how that goes. Coach, thank you so much for
course.
joining me on the show. Our very own Casey Honigbaum had a chance to go down to MetLife Stadium this Saturday for all the action.
As the weather cooled down, the Bombers did the exact opposite, heating up a 32-20 win against Cortland State, their rivals, in the 61st annual Cortaca Jug game. The Bombers came out strong in the first half, cooled down a little bit early in the second, but were able to regain composure and finish out the game strong. Joe Germanario, 3 rushing touchdowns, 2 passing touchdowns, and the defense, 2 interceptions and a fumble recovery. The Ithaca Bombers had a great game, and I was able to catch up with some of the stars here today. Joe, terrific game. A little bit of a bounce back maybe from the past couple of weeks. What were you able to do to come out and get a win in this stage?
I just wanted to give it my all, and I know everyone on that offense and defense just has so much heart, and we just came out and we battled the whole game. It was a physical game, and I thought our defense that first and second half, they just never gave in, and they made it really hard for Brett and those guys because Cortland's got an unbelievable offense. So, we on offense for us, we just stuck to our game plan, and obviously we came out victorious, which is huge.
It's really remarkable. This is so historical, something to be incredibly proud of. A number of Division III schools could have never dreamed of the possibilities of something like this. And I'm just so thrilled that we believed in the scale of it, the vision of it. This is full display of the promise of what an IC experience and education is all about.
I talked to a lot of your players too this week about how you prepared to see something like this and play in front of this much noise. What did you guys do to combat that?
Oh, we were playing some music pretty loud. I mean, that could do something for us. It could not. I'll tell you, the energy was pretty much there in practice because the music was bumping all week. But, our guys really just did a nice job. We talked about it all week about ignoring the noise and just focus on the task at hand, one play at a time, doing your 111, communicating to each other, being on the same page, and just running the ball. And we did it well enough today to get a victory.
And take us through that last play, that touchdown catch. What was going through your mind and how were you able to pull that off?
So basically in the huddle, they said we could have ran the ball, but we wanted to dial up something big. And coach said, "Joe, you want to do it?" He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "You want to do it?" "Yeah." And let's go get it. So we did it.
Historic day all around here for the Bombers, and they were able to come away with the win. From MetLife Stadium, I'm Casey Honigbaum with the Gridiron Report.
Thank you for that report, Casey. We're going to step aside for a bit, but we have so much to get to. Player interviews, Liberty League updates, debates, all coming up, so don't go anywhere. Make sure you're following us on our social media for a behind the scenes look every week. You can see that on the screen. The Gridiron Report, we'll be right back. Thanks for tuning in. You're watching the Gridiron Report. We just had Coach Turper in studio. Still some games around the league this week. Alyssa, what happened around the conference?
Thanks, Matias. I'm Liberty League analyst Alyssa Spady. The final week of Liberty League play did not disappoint. It was filled with 2 big rivalry games, a shutout, and a record-breaking performance. Let's get into it, starting off with Hobart and Rochester. The 2 met for the annual 13th Centennial Cup, the 100th meeting of the rivalry with a strong history that began in 1892, making it Hobart's oldest active rivalry, and the statement did not disappoint. In the first half, they opened up with 34 quick points, and scoring came from just about everyone. First-year running back Rayshon Boswell ran back a 98-yard kickoff return for the Statesmen to give a quick 7 while breaking the school's record on that return. Outside linebacker Emmett Ford gave another 7 on a fumble recovery, but the interesting part about that game is that another 15 points was tacked on by their junior kicker Kyle Hackett. And it wasn't until 5 minutes into the third quarter that Rochester finally broke Hobart's chances of a shutout. 3 quick touchdowns and a missed extra point brought U of R back, but it wasn't enough as Rochester fell to Hobart 51-20. Hobart finishes 4-2 in conference. Rochester finishes at 0-6 in conference. Moving on to the league champs as they faced off against RPI. With the Dutchman Shoes Trophy and the fear of losing an undefeated record on the line, Union went to work. IK Irabor had a clinic. He had just 3 touchdowns in the first half alone. His 18 points was followed up by an Andre Ross Jr. 10-yard TD, as well as a Will Simmons TD. RPI simply could not keep up with the high-power Union offense and their suffocating defense. RPI failed to find the end zone or the uprights all game, and they were just kept to 212 yards total on offense. And with that 33-0 shutout, Union claimed its 10th undefeated season and its 13th straight victory over RPI. They will continue on to the NCAA tournament, which begins November 23rd. RPI will finish their season at 3-3 in conference. The final conference game of the 2019 season came down between St. Lawrence and Buffalo State, and it was a back-and-forth game for the two, with Buffalo State's Martin Bailey scoring a touchdown on the first drive of the game, but it was quick with a St. Lawrence answer with a touchdown of their own. And from that, the trend just continued until the fourth quarter when quarterback Tyler Groshot sealed the deal with his own touchdown. The Saints pulled off a close one, winning 31-26. St. Lawrence finishes their season at 3-3 in conference, while Buffalo State finishes at 1-5. This week, two players, one on the offensive side and one on the defensive side, helped to give their teams that added boost. These are your Liberty League players of the week. On the offensive side, senior quarterback who gave his team all he could this week from Buffalo State, it's Zach Sasky. Sasky went 66% on the day with 3 touchdowns and 327 yards, and he also had 62 yards rushing on 15 carries. He finishes his season with 2,263 yards passing, 15 touchdowns, and 192 yards rushing. And on the defensive side, junior linebacker who helped Union tremendously this season, Colin Lama. Lama had 12 tackles, a sack, and a forced fumble against RPI. He finishes his season with 83 total tacks, and I think he'll be a strong candidate for All-Liberty first team this year and will be a huge defensive force next year. And with the season coming to a close, for most teams, let's give special recognition to 2 players who had amazing seasons. My Liberty League offensive MVP for this season is sophomore running back I.K. Irabor. Irabor finished his season with 1,093 rushing yards, making him first in the Liberty League. And if that wasn't enough, he also had 15 touchdowns, which also put him at the top of the Liberty League. He was the guy for most of the season for Union, giving them touchdowns and key plays to secure the conference title. On the other side, the Liberty League defensive MVP for this season is junior Colin Lama. Lama had 83 total tackles and 2.5 sacks this season, but it wasn't just the stat sheet that he impressed me on. His intensity and drive on the field is what propelled him into this position. His key stops during key games also helped Union secure their conference title and an automatic bid to the NCAA tournament. That's all for myself in the Liberty League this year. Tune in next when Matias and I sit down with this week's Ithaca's defensive and offensive players. And don't forget to follow us on social media to get a behind-the-scenes look at all things Gridiron Report. Don't go anywhere. The Gridiron Report will be right back.
Welcome back to the Gridiron Report, everyone, your one-stop shop for all things Bombers football. Right now we have our defensive players of the week joining us. Both of these players are cornerbacks and first-time starters for the Bombers. They came up huge on Saturday. Directly next to me is Kyrie Brown, and to the right is Anthony Robinson. Gentlemen, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, Anthony, we'll start with you. Just talk to me real quick about playing at MetLife Stadium.
Oh, that's unreal. As a kid, I grew up a Giants fan, so just being in that environment was crazy, and then just the game overall was exciting. So,
we'll get to your play later, but just being on the field, it's obviously so different than Butterfield Stadium. But were you nervous at all, or?
Actually, not. When we first arrived as a team, it was just like we're all like little kids in the backyard again, just comfortable, like we're supposed to be there in a way.
Kyrie, what did you do to make sure that the seniors on the team ended their career on a high note on such a big stage?
I just tried to give my best effort. I think that's one thing that we lacked with the 2 losses we had against RPI and Union was a lack of stepping up from us underclassmen, and that's what I told them in the team meeting, that we need to step it up. Felt pretty good that we did that Saturday as an underclassmen group. The seniors do deserve the world, so yeah, that's what we try to do this week.
I'd say so. You caused one of those fumbles. Now, Anthony, we'll get to your big play. The whole season, you led I don't know if you noticed, you led the Liberty League in pass breakups. You went into the jug with 11, but you didn't have an interception. Then the last home game, if you want to call it a home game, you come up with that interception. What's going through your mind on that play?
Well, besides that play, crazy thing, I had a ball caught on me right before that, and I was a little mad about it. And right before we went out for that drive, Coach Turp told me, he's like, don't sweat it. Like, you're gonna get this pick right now. Like, I cannot make this up. He said it. He's like, you're gonna get this interception, and then there you know, just in my hands, it was.
So
crazy.
You were hunting for this all season.
Last play of the season, like I finally got one. That's unreal.
Kyrie, how does it feel to go from Butterfield and being in your own backyard to going to MetLife and playing on such a big stage?
It was pretty special. We definitely had fun. It was exciting. Like Ant said, we weren't really nervous. Friday I was nervous when we went down before everyone came. Saturday, of course, and I was kind of nervous, but we just embraced the moment. You know, the experience was crazy. Actually, to be honest with you, once everyone showed up in the stands, it was pretty insane, to be honest.
Now, Anthony, I want to just talk about the entire season. You guys are both first-time starters. You're a sophomore. What was it like? What was your favorite moment of the season, and kind of what do you think you've transitioned from your first game to this last game?
This weekend was my favorite moment by far, but this week, throughout the season, I just feel like honing in on just doing me one play at a time is what I really focus on. Because me and Kyrie, like spring and over the summer and back in fall camp, we were fighting for the same spot. So like, just me and him to be on the same field at the same time is just like unreal. But yeah, just one play at a time, and yeah, that's it.
Kyrie, you had so many great plays yesterday, but can you just walk me through that pass where you literally just ripped it out of the receiver's hands?
Well, what's crazy about it, as he told the story about Turp telling me he was gonna get a pick, I was on the sideline with our zip, Rob Daly, and I think it was like the offense had the ball. We knew we were gonna go back out again. Rob's like, 2-minute in MetLife. Here we go. We go back out and then get the strip. I was like, because Rob's like, we need a turnover, get the strip. And it was just crazy. I didn't believe the whistle wasn't blown. Just play, give my best effort all week, every day. That's what I try to do.
So we might have another game after this, but if we're gonna just take a look at the whole season, you're not allowed to pick Cortaca because I think that's cheating. What was your favorite moment of the season before that? We'll start with you, Anthony.
Oh man, that's a hard question. It really is a hard question.
Yeah, that's why you can't pick MetLife. Or a favorite game you had, maybe.
I don't know. I feel like Alfred, I think Alfred, maybe because my mom was there, like, I don't know, it's just, I think I had a really good game. Alfred I was in on a lot of tackles and stuff, so I think that was one of my favorite games.
What about you, Kyrie?
I mean, in terms of a team, my favorite game is probably St. John Fisher. I think that's a game that
Because of the team, huh? Not because of anything else?
Well, I was going to get to that. Well, if it's talking about me, then yeah, that was my favorite game with the game-winning pick, whatever. But I definitely like the whole, everyone put stuff together just like we did yesterday, or Saturday, excuse me. But everyone put everything together that game, so that's probably my favorite game.
All right, that'll do it for the Gridiron Report. Defensive Players of the Week, cornerbacks Anthony Robinson and Kyrie Brown leading the charge for the defense. Gentlemen, thank you for coming on, and congrats on a great season as always. Follow us on social media for great content, for some behind-the-scenes looks. We've got more interviews on the other side of the break, so don't go anywhere. The Gridiron Report will be right back. Welcome back to the Gridiron Report. The Cortaca special rolls on. We just had our Defensive Players of the Week, so let's flip to the other side of the ball now. A couple of Gridiron season debuts. Quarterback Joe Germanario and offensive lineman Jimmy Puckey joining us. Gentlemen, thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having us.
Joe, we'll start with you. You had a season high in rushing attempts in this game, and obviously it translated into yards and into scores. Was that part of the game plan, or was it an adjustment in game?
It was definitely part of the game plan. We were going to get me involved running the ball. And, the past 2 weeks, the time of possession was a little flipped. So we just wanted to really start the game. And I thought with that first drive, we really came out. And it was huge for us and a huge momentum playing in the stadium like that to start first after what happened with the RPI game where, we, blink of an eye, it was a 3-touchdown deficit. So that was huge. And that was kind of a big part of it, just going up 7-0 and just getting me involved running early.
Jimmy, how did you communicate effectively with all the crowd noise as well as the noise on the field?
Well, I think it was just very important to, make eye contact with Joe and make sure, we were getting the calls and then just relaying them down the line, talking to the tackles, talking to the centers, and just making sure we were all on the same page with each other. And, yeah, that's about it.
And Joe, you had your hand in all 5 of the Bombers' touchdowns yesterday. What was going through your head in the pregame that fueled your performance on the field during the game?
Just play our game. I don't think it was anything going through my head in pregame. I just think all our guys just prepare so hard, and I just think an opportunity like that from what we do from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, all throughout the week, it just propelled us to just play well on Saturday.
Now, Jimmy, you've had to block for 4 different running backs. I spoke to Kyle Byrne, and he said, we just block forever. It doesn't matter. But is it different with each running back? Is it hard? And then once you throw Joe into the mix and he's running it up the middle 30 times, is that harder for you guys?
I mean, for the O-line, we kind of don't really worry about what's going on behind us. We don't look at the signals. We don't. Joe leaves half the information out of it. Just if it's a pass, he gives us the protection. If it's a run, RPO, he just tells us what we have to do. So most of the time, we don't even know where the ball's going. It could go 2 different ways. So I guess, definitely Joe runs a little different than Kendall, who's trying to hit it on the outside with some speed, and AJ hitting it on the outside with speed. But I think they all do a pretty good job on, reading our blocks and being patient and, making the right cuts.
And Joe, this one's for you now. Obviously, with Brockport, you've played Cortland every year.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is the 4th time you played them, and if I'm not mistaken, you've beat them every single time. Is there something special about playing the Red Dragons that you just play better? Did this give you an advantage having played against them before?
I think there was somewhat of an advantage, but a lot of teams we played, there's been similar opponents with St. John Fisher and Hobart. We played in the non-conference and whatnot. But, every game you play, you want to win, So it just so happened that I was fortunate enough to, every time we played them, we ended up beating them. But, the goal is to just win every game you play, really. So I wouldn't say Cortland was extra, but I will say the Cortaca Jug was something, I didn't really experience till obviously yesterday, and that was different from anything I've experienced, really, ever.
So I think it'd be fair to assume that this was your favorite victory over Cortland?
Yes, that's safe to say, yes.
Jimmy, what was your favorite moment of this whole entire Cortaca experience?
I think it had to be when we took that final knee, and the crowd was going crazy at the end. Joe was getting all fired up for all the boys. Toss the ball on the stand. So one of our buddies, the Sweet Boys, shout out to Sweet, and just once that final knee was over, it was a little sad knowing that it was final Cortaca, but awesome to go out that way and in front of all those people and all my family members, and yeah, so that final knee was incredible.
All right. That'll do it for the Players of the Week, Jimmy Puckey and Joe Germanero coming on. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on. Congratulations on a great season. As always, follow us on social media for some great content. As always, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, keeping you guys posted on everything going on. The Cortaca special for the Gridiron Report will return after this. Welcome back, everyone. The Gridiron Report trucks on. The emotions for Cortaca were high because of the significance, but it could potentially be the last game for the Bombers, depending on how bowl selection goes. Our very own Casey Honigbaum got a chance to sit down with a couple of seniors to see what the mindset is for their last ride.
We're here with the senior captains from the Ithaca College Football team. And obviously, guys, the big story this year, we're playing at MetLife. You guys are playing at MetLife. You guys got the chance this summer to walk around and, kind of take a little tour with your coach, and the Cortland captains and their coach had the opportunity to be there too. Can you talk a little bit about what that was like, and maybe are you able to imagine what it's going to be like to have 40,000 plus people there?
I know with it being empty, I was pretty overwhelmed. It's definitely exciting. When we went down there this summer, I think we had a lot of fun, just hanging out. It was kind of the first time we got to see each other this summer, so we were all excited. I don't know if I can really picture with 45,000 fans in it, though, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it was pretty hot that day, too.
We've
had full pads, but it'll definitely be different being, 40 degrees tomorrow. But, it was really cool getting to go in the locker room and everything and just exploring the field.
So take me back a little bit also to your first Cortaca that you guys played in. What were some of the things that were told to you maybe by some of the upper class guys? What did they tell you about the game, and did it live up to the hype for you guys?
My first Cortaca that I played in was sophomore year, and I just thought it'd be a big game with a lot. I played in a big game in high school every Thanksgiving, but you don't really understand like the magnitude of it until you actually get out there, and like you actually like when you're out there, you feel the hate towards Cortland and kind of like the respect too. But it was definitely pretty crazy. I couldn't believe like how serious like people took it. Like it's just a faceless opponent, like some random team, but it definitely means a little more.
Yeah, my first quarter game was freshman year, 2016, and same thing as like Mike said. But you don't really realize it until you get on the field and you can't even hear yourself think. You know, there's 10, 15,000 fans screaming and you can't communicate with the guy next to you, and then, you know, you just feel that, you know, that rivalry kick in, you know, mid-game. It's pretty cool.
Talk about the magnitude of this game and it also being your last one and now it being played on the biggest stage possible. You know, have you guys had a moment to kind of step back and reflect on your 4 years here with the program and also it being your last Cortaca game?
Yeah, we've definitely been talking about it ever since the start of season. Nick and I live together, so we're always talking about, like, it's our last season, like, we just got to give it our all, and now it's winding down. And it's sad, and it's flown by, but we've had a lot of fun, and we've really developed together, and I'm excited for this opportunity, especially with all my brothers, and we're just going to go out guns blazing.
Yeah, I know it's funny, me and Mike always joke around. After we're done with practice, we just look over at the Cayuga Lake and everything. We just take it all in. Just said today too. You just looking at the sky, you know, and we're like, you know, just taking it in.
It's a heck of a view.
And,
it's incredible.
It's great. But yeah, no, I mean, we definitely think about it. And now since it has been coming down, like we all said, it's you know, we're just trying to have fun out there now, and just beat Cortland, obviously.
And this question I want to ask to Nick specifically, but you guys can totally chime in on this also. But you kind of touched on it in the last question, but your dad played here, your brother played here. So for you especially, what does it mean to you to be a Bomber?
I mean, ever since I was a little kid and my dad was coaching me Pee Wee football, he always had Ithaca stuff on, and all I heard about was Ithaca football. And, you know, then growing up, my brother and sister decided to come here. My sister actually played volleyball for Ithaca, and my Uncle Jason played here, my mom's brother. And, you know, I grew up in a Bomber household, so, I mean, I'd say I was forced to come to Ithaca, but I always wanted to come to Ithaca.
John, this next one's for you here, but so obviously, I mean, you've had no shortage of awards on the field, you know, but I wanted to highlight a few of them. 2 times you were named to the Liberty League All-Academic team, and then the COSIDA Academic All-District Award. You got that twice, too. And then I saw also you were nominated, I think it was this year, for the William Campbell Trophy, which is given to the player who combines, you know, on the field excellence and also in the classroom. Is that something that you personally strive for and that you take pride in here at Ithaca?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a pre-med major, so I definitely am trying my best. I'm trying to get into med school right now, so, you know, putting my best foot forward in the classroom is definitely something I take personally, and then also it helps, you know, my guys, like, when they see that I'm striving on the field and I'm striving in the classroom, that they can look up to that. I know, like, also Kyle over there, he has a very hard major. He's an athletic training major, and he's doing the same thing. Like, you know, we're striving on the field, we're captains, we're trying to do everything right in the field, but, like, getting it done in the classroom is also really important. So I think, and, you know, we all kind of take that personally. Like, we just want to be able to lead, you know, especially underclassmen who may not know the magnitude of, you know, academics as well. Like, we're student athletes, and we're not paid to play sports here, so we're students first. So.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really important. And Kyle and Michael, chatting a little bit about this obviously before, but, you know, you guys weren't necessarily recruited to come here and play football, and now senior year, you're senior captains. You know, talk a little bit about what, you know, how did that journey, you know, take place, and what you know, looking back on it now, what's that like?
Yeah, so, like, out of high school, like, I wasn't really, like, recruited for, like, well, I was recruited, like, at some other schools, but I couldn't really get in based on whatever happened. But I pretty much gave up on trying to play college football. And then just, for some reason, my dad applied me to Ithaca College. Really easy apply, to click a button.
Yeah.
And I got in, and then, because he had a buddy who played, like, in the 80s who played football here. So he said, like, try it out, like, email the coach. So I emailed one of the coaches, and he didn't get back to me at all. And then I was like, all right, whatever. I waited like 3 weeks. I emailed Coach Welch, the head coach at the time. And yeah, he replied, and he said, yeah, you can come play. And So then I kind of came in here with a chip on my shoulder, and me and Kyle talk about it all the time. Excuse me, Kyle and I talk about it all the time. We have this thing called underdogs on top. Ever since freshman year, man, we'd be talking about how we're gonna make it, and it worked out.
There you are. Kyle, we're going to stay on you real quick here. So looking back at your roster pictures through the years, you've had no shortage of interesting facial hair. You know, you had the flow last year too.
Yes.
Yeah. I was pretty impressed with that.
We had mixed views on that.
Yeah.
I loved it.
I had to cut it.
You did cut it.
Who had to cut the middle here? That's what what's the decision-making process when you decide to shave the middle of your chin and leave everything else going
Chops.
down the side? Yeah, some real mutton chops there.
I just want have fun with it. Why not?
This last one's for all of you, but we're talking about closure here. It's your last season. What are your plans for after college? Where can we see all our senior captains after graduation?
I just want to get a job, man. I don't know. I mean, somewhere in finance.
Yeah.
Yeah, asset management, commercial real estate, but
nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm shooting for med school. I applied a few weeks ago, so I'm just waiting to hear back from that.
Absolutely.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm going to be working with my old man and my brother. Those
All right.
two Ithaca alum, too. So that's the
good
plan.
to stay together.
And I'm going to try to get into a PT graduate school. I got to take a couple prereqs first, so I'll be working in a physical therapy office, but I'll be trying to do that.
Awesome. Thank you so much for doing it with me, guys.
Yeah,
And,
thanks
I
for having
appreciate
us.
your time. And
Thank you.
Good luck on Saturday.
Thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Appreciate that.
Awesome.
Thank you for that, Casey. We now bring our new set of players in, 3 players making their season debut on the Gridiron Report from left to right. Mikey Rumis, Ed Longus, and Antonio Valley. Mikey and Ed, you guys were selected as the Gridiron Report's Breakout Stars of the Year, so we'll start with you. Mike, this one's for you first. 14 tackles last year, 49 this year. You had that pick 6. You kind of played like a hybrid cornerback safety position. What allowed you to be so successful this season?
Just coaching. I mean, preparation throughout the whole season, even like hard work in camp. Everything leading up to the season really got me going. Just playing different positions. I think last game I played 3 different positions total. So I mean, just being focused throughout each week and preparing each week, just like I'm going to play each position the whole game.
And Ed, this one's for you. You didn't register any stats last year. You have 10 tackles through the first 4 games. From there on out, you had 37. You didn't record less than 4 tackles the last 6 games. What worked for you?
It's similar to Mikey, just preparation. Going back to last year, I didn't play a ton, but I got to learn a ton from Brian Petrolik, great guy. Kind of took me under his wing, showed me how to play great football, and then all off season working really hard. Got to give some credit to Gian Kelly, Warren Watson. The 3 of us were really spent all off season working real hard. So nothing changed. It was just the preparation kind of lined up. I had opportunities to do things from all the work we put in from the off season.
So you guys had really big shoes to fill. You guys did so very well. Now going into another off season, what is the biggest area of improvement personally that you guys want to fill? We'll start with you.
Just get better at everything. I mean, little by little, if you just work on what you're good at already, you're going to get better. And hopefully that could springboard us into the next season and keep going from there.
What about you, Ed?
Yeah, similar to Mike. I've done some good things, but I see that there's still a lot of room to grow, and I just want to be more consistent, play a little faster, play a little stronger next season, and continue to progress as a player. See where I'm not sure where my ceiling can be, and I'd love to just continue to chase after that.
All right, so now let's get to you, Antonio. You took home the most improved player of the year from the Gridiron Report, so congratulations to you for that. You jumped up your stats by 20 tackles this season. You had at least 2 years in the system, something that both these gentlemen did not have. How do you keep improving in your 3rd year, and what did you think your biggest improvement was?
I think I kept improving just through my preparation, like these 2 said. The offseason was huge for me. Last year I was weighing around 210 pounds, got sick, I was about 200 pounds. I was 230 walking into camp this year, and just so much stronger, better shape, and I think that really allowed me to blossom this season.
So it is possible that you will be the senior most player on this defensive line next season. You've had more responsibilities this year because you got to start. Now, what do you think those responsibilities are going to be like next year, and how are you going to prepare for those?
I think it's going to be a lot of the same thing. I feel like our responsibilities now are just on the D-line. Ed can vouch for this. Is just doing your job and make sure other guys are freed up to make plays. And I think it's going to be a lot of the same work. And I'm going to have a lot more younger guys looking up to me to see my composure and things like that. So I think that's about it.
Do you have a favorite moment from this season?
Yeah, probably against Hobart. I went in, made a cut. I didn't even make the play, but I got up. I was so happy that I freed up our linebacker to go make a TFL. I just got up and started screaming. Like, that was just one of the best moments.
Hey, and whatever works, works. So heard from the three players. Thank you so much for coming on. We're not done yet, though. This might be my favorite moment of the show. We're going to have our top 5 plays from the season. Let's see it. Let's roll the tape. Let's see what made the cut from the entire season. At number 5, this is a double reverse from Jacob Cooney over to Mikey Anderson. You have Jimmy Puckey, you have Joe Germinario leading the blocks. Mikey Anderson getting into the end zone, the second score for the Bombers of that day. That was his first of the season. And how about this onside kick against Buffalo State, perfectly placed for Kyrie Brown. And let's stay with Brown, number 3 now, making the game-sealing interception after a big comeback from St. John Fisher. Still in that Buffalo State game, Joe Germinario tossing it up to Will Gladney as he's going down. He makes the catch again against Buffalo State, and then why not pick this one? The throw over to the wide open Andrew Vito in the corner. That one sealed the game. Of course, that was in Cortaca, as you could tell from the NFL logo. That does it for our top 5. We're going to take a quick break before we get to the 4th and goal debate. As always, check out our social media sites for updates and Bombers news. The Gridiron Report continues after this. Welcome back to the Gridiron Report. I'm joined by our analysts for today, Jackson Lawrence, Brendan Miller, and Alex Hessig. Let's get right to it. Question number 1, what stood out to you the most about Ithaca's win over Cortland? Brendan, you go first.
Well, I'm going to say it was the fact that Ithaca came out, was able to get points on the board early, and that allowed them to use the clock as much as possible. You talk about using the clock. They held the ball for 44 out of a possible 60 minutes.
What about you, Jackson?
Yeah, you could talk about all the scoring they have, but that doesn't come without the dominance that the offensive line had and the defensive line as well. Both came out to play. Jim Nero had all the time in the world to throw, and we saw it. He was scrambling all up and down the field a couple times in this game. They gave him everything he needed, and that's why he was able to run up and down the field and give the Bombers a win.
I don't really think there's a wrong answer here, but what about you, Alex?
Well, Jackson just kind of mentioned it. Joe Germinario being the dual-threat quarterback in this game, 34 rushing attempts, over 150 yards, 3 touchdowns, using his feet, added a new dynamic to the offense, and I think was the difference in this game.
And Alex, I'm going to jump on what you just had to say there. Germinario with 34 rushing attempts. That's the 4th most attempts in a single game in Ithaca Bombers history. So the dude was just running all over this defense, and that he took to take the ball and just run and pick up yardage that the Bombers needed.
Yeah, you could talk about all the runs that he had. Credit to him, he did a great job. But the offensive line, if you look at the defensive line when they went up against Cortland, they were able to read their keys, and that's exactly what you need, especially from a team that's dominated all year. In Cortland, they had over 40 points a game. On offense, defense, they held their teams to less than 20. I think that the way they were able to push them up and down the field, gave them all the holes they needed, and Germinario just exploited all of that they said. And the Cortland coach even said it. Their secondary was played out wide so that they knew Ithaca's strengths, and Ithaca just exploited them on them.
All right, gentlemen. So a couple hours ago, they had the selection show for the NCAA. Unfortunately, Ithaca did not make it into the tournament. Do you think they deserved an at-large bid after yesterday's win? Jackson, you go first.
Yeah, if we're going to talk about if the best teams in the country make the tournament, I think they do. They were able to beat Cortland, who were the front runners in the E8 most of the year. They lost to Brockport. They probably should have won that game. So I think, if they're in the E8 still, they easily make the tournament, and they have a chance to compete.
What about you, Alex?
Yeah, I'm going to have to disagree. I just think the resume wasn't up to par this time around for the Bombers. There really weren't many quality wins, and that's just the way it works out sometimes. All these scheduling things are figured out way ahead of time. It's just what happened with them this year. Cortland, it was a nice win to end the season. It's the highlight of the season because the NCAAs were the goal, but they came up short in that regard.
What about you, Brendan?
I completely agree with Alex. The fact that the Bombers came out, they obviously were one of the projected top 25 teams in the country, and they're not going to finish in the top rankings. The final had them receiving 14 votes. They're a team that, did they put themselves in the conversation at the end of the year? Yes, but I don't think that they were good enough. They just didn't have the quality wins. They didn't beat a single team that actually made the tournament. The only team that they played was Union, but that was a game that they needed to win, and they ended up losing it, their first loss of the year.
Yeah, you could talk about them being in contention at the end of the year, but it all comes from, like you said, that Union game, and the RPI is really what killed them. You can't go out to a team that's second place in the Liberty League and that only scored 12 points and give up 38. That was really the killer for them.
Yeah, and a lot of the strength of schedule stuff wasn't in their favor either. The two teams that they beat at the beginning of the year, who were ranked, Alfred and Hobart, were teams that by the end of the year had proven themselves to not really be the best teams in the league or the best teams in the country. So they really didn't have any quality wins that would have put them in the tournament anyway, but they're going to get a bowl game, or hopefully they get a bowl game out of it at the end here, so there's going to be something to play for at least.
Yeah, and with 5 at-large spots, the margin for error is just so minimal, and that loss RPI really was the killer for them.
Like you guys said, I agree with you. The RPI loss did end up hurting them because if you lose to Union and you beat RPI, at least you have the chance to get that at-large bid. Lots of things to remember this season, though, for. You might get that bowl game. Joe Germinario had a tremendous season. MetLife, of course, going back to the quarterback. His first season is going to be his last season with the Bombers. How do you remember his season? Alex, you go first.
I think we have to remember as one of the greatest individual seasons for an Ithaca quarterback ever. 39 total touchdowns, 8-2 record. Obviously, the team fell short of their goals, and I'm sure Joe fell short of his own personal goals, but when you look at it in totality, almost 40 total touchdowns, you can't say it's not a great season.
What do you think, Brennan?
I think that the team rolled with Joe. So when Joe was having a great game or a streak of good games, the team was as well. We saw that with the 2 shutout wins that they had in the middle part of the season. But then when he wasn't really performing, the team wasn't performing that well either. I want to pick up some numbers here. When Germinario threw at least 66%, he had a 66% completion percentage, the team won every single one of those games. And they outscored opponents 298 to 82 when he threw 70% in a game.
Jackson, you agree?
I'm going to say I sort of agree here, but here's the thing for Germinario. I think that him being a fifth-year senior coming into this team for 1 year and trying to lead the team into a national championship was a little tall of a task to think about. I think at some points in the season they definitely relied on him a little too much, throwing 60 passes in a game. There's times when you just got to rely on your other players. He did a great job leading the team, but there were certainly things he could have done better.
Well, and you have to think about the fact that Germinario is one of the premier quarterbacks in Division III football. I mean, just this year alone, he jumped into the top 10 in career. This isn't by a season. This is in career touchdowns, in career yardage, and in career passing yards. So this guy is absolutely ridiculous. And, if you have him, you might as well rely on him in these big games.
I think the fact they relied on him so much made their offense one-dimensional, though, at times with the lack of a run game. I think it may have made the task a little too tall, as Jackson said, for him.
Well, I think we saw in Cortland this last game where they used him as a running back as well. Germinario ran for over 140 yards in the game and was the leading rusher for Ithaca. So once they got him moving his feet, that kind of opened up the rushing game as well.
Okay, so Germinario's not going to be there next season. He is a senior. Is Wahid Nabi a lock to be the quarterback after Germinario graduates? Of course, this is all speculation. Brennan, what do you think?
I think that right now Wahid Nabi is the incumbent starter, obviously being on the roster and starting at least the year before this one. But there is a lot of talent in that quarterback room. You want to talk about freshmen, guys that can play. I mean, A.J. Wingfield, the 2018 New Jersey Player of the Year, and Connor Hayes was a 3-time All-CNY quarterback in upstate New York.
Just real quick, Alex, yes or no?
I think he has to be the favorite. 2-year starter, an all-league performer, had a 6-touchdown performance in his last Cortaca game. I mean, odds-on favorite to be the starter for sure, yes.
Jackson, real quick, yes or
I'm
no?
going to say no right now. It's a three-man race. And also, after Cortaca at MetLife, who's to say that recruiting won't get another star quarterback as a freshman next year?
Interesting point. Well, that'll do it for this week on the Gridiron Report. Thank you to everyone who stopped by to talk Bombers football. Coach Turper, Joe Germinario, Jimmy Puckey, Kyrie Brown, Anthony Robinson, Ed Longus, Michael Rumis, and Antonio Valli. One last time, hop on your phones and show our social media page some love and check out some great content. This is our season finale, and as a senior, it will be my last time hosting a show for ICTV. I came to the Park School as a nervous freshman 4 years ago, terrified but excited by the opportunities. My goal was to host the show at some point before graduating, and after not hosting anything my first 3 years, I was finally blessed with the opportunity this semester, and it was an unreal experience. I want to thank the whole crew for all they do. You might not see them on air, but their contributions are real. Thank you to all the players and coaches who took time out of their day to come, and most importantly, the producers for the show, Kat, Jack, and Ben, for believing in me and selecting me for this incredible honor. Have a great ride. Go Bombers.